How much better did Cam Newton get under him? There's always questions. But
for sure,
I guess my point is they also did this with Shanahan because Shanahan had credibility and he was competent and he was a winner and he was a complete flop. So now Bruce Allen was still in the building. All right, so maybe it'll be different here, but Redskins fans can still look back and say, well, we've done this before, and we've hired a guy who was credible and a winner, and it just didn't work out.
Sure, absolutely. And Ron, it's not like Bill Belichick is available.
Right, right.
To have someone who is, and even in hindsight, right? Oh, the Rams, what a home run with McVay. Everyone knew. No, they didn't. He was the youngest NFL coach in NFL history, and he'd been the offensive coordinator here. Now, I think people that knew Sean thought he would be successful, but you don't know until a guy's in a certain situation. There have been coaches. Belichick was not very good in Cleveland, and that's actually a conversation that Rivera has had with Belichick. If you read some of the stories that have come out, including Mike Silver's over the weekend for NFL.com, Ron got a call from Bill himself saying, hey, didn't really work out for me the first time in Cleveland, but you know so much more the second time. So maybe that's that. There are other coaches that get multiple chances and fail. But what you don't have to worry about with the Rivera is any kind of off-the-field stuff, any kind of character concern, any kind of sniping in the media. Ron's going to be really transparent. He's just salt of the earth, great human being. And that kind of thing can change an organization in terms of leading by example. And I think some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes here will stop and get a lot better with him in charge if people take to him as the tone setter and or he is allowed to bring in his own people.
Joined by our Redskins beat reporter Craig Hoffman. All right, let's play the speculation game. We've already taken a couple of calls wondering about Trent Williams. So Trent Williams this year obviously didn't play for the Redskins. Beginning of the year, I remember Bruce Allen kind of chiding the media, saying you guys don't know what's going on. They seem to be gambling on Trent not wanting to forego all that money and returning to the team. Ultimately, he did but didn't play. Trent voiced his unhappiness with Bruce Allen and the organization. Could you see him returning to actually the field for the Redskins next season, or is it a situation where it's not just Bruce Allen, it's the organization, and they're going to trade him?
Yeah, I think that there is a more than 0% chance that Trent Williams is back. However, it is still far-fetched, and there's a lot of work to be done. The relationship between Trent and Dan did sour when Trent came back. I don't think it soured beyond repair, but there were conversations, and they didn't go particularly well, from what I was told. Dan still had a little bit of a sense of entitlement over Trent. Hey, and it seemed like for all of the personal stuff that they went through, that there was still a part of the conversation that was geared towards just hey, I want you to play football for the Washington Redskins. I want you to play football for my team. And that lack of personal touch and continuing to employ all the people that had screwed him over in his mind, all that stuff, I think did turn Trent off. Now, he's not going to probably say that publicly because he still does feel a great debt of gratitude to Dan for the medical help and all the things that were outlined in the interview that I did with him. But I think that stuff, the stuff that did go down, could potentially be overcome with the right coach, and a guy like Rivera certainly could be that guy, and with a true heart-to-heart with Dan where they clear the air. And the other part of that obviously would be a contract. Trent now entering the final year. Does he want more? Would they be willing to give him more?
Craig, to continue the speculation game, because Ron Rivera hasn't been hired, do we know if Ron Rivera would go with the Kevin O'Connell as the offensive coordinator or bring Norv Turner with him? Norv has been the OC in Carolina.
So 3 people have to make a decision here. First, Snyder has to decide, hey, we're going to wipe out all these other coaches, but O'Connell's staying. I think that is going to be the case, where he wants Kevin to stay. The other 2 parts are less certain. I don't know what Rivera thinks. From back-channeling the things that I've heard, Ron likes Kevin, thinks he's smart, obviously prepared for him, and didn't do a very good job of it in his last game in Carolina, or it turned out to be his last game when the Redskins and O'Connell-led offense ran all over them. And then Kevin's got to make a decision. And I think personally, and here's the other background on this. They don't know each other. They don't have any kind of previous relationship. They know of each other. They've talked once or twice, but they don't have any kind of personal relationship. And for all the coaching circles that each has been in, they have not crossed. So Kevin knows of Ron, has heard nothing but good things about him personally, but they would have to have a conversation about schematics and philosophy. And I think Kevin was very frustrated at times this year working under Callahan, and I think he understands the kind of head coach he wants to call plays for, someone who might not dictate as much as Callahan did at times. So the question now becomes, what steps would he have to take to get out of the contract if that's what he wants? But I do think that at the very least there will be some conversations, and I do think that starts with Dan deciding what he wants, and the anticipation is that Dan will ask Kevin to stay and continue to work with Dwayne moving forward.
Do you think that if Rivera is hired, he has the power to say, no, I know you like Kevin, but I'm bringing my guy Norv and his son Scott. I think Scott Turner's on the staff too. I mean,
yeah,
do you think he would have that power?
I would think so, yes.
Yeah. Do you think this happens today? Do you think the announcement comes today?
Rivera? Yeah. It's whether the announcement comes today or tomorrow is irrelevant. It's
the guy. He's the
unless Ron trips over himself in a way that Ron Rivera does not do, or something really weird happens with Snyder. This is happening, and it's happening this afternoon.
It's a big day, huh?
Yeah.
It's a big day.
Hey, one more thing before I go.
Yep.
For you guys. So there's some reports out there that Eric Schaefer is going to get more power. I saw Washington Post had it amongst others, and this has always been a possibility. It's always fun crediting things that have been ongoing for months. But for Eric and Kyle Smith and all those guys, they haven't been told anything yet. So the idea that, yes, they're probably going to get more power and they're hiring Rivera and then kind of figuring it out, that's the timeline. They're hiring Rivera and then figuring it out. They don't know exactly what the new power structure is going to be yet. And I think part of that is probably because Rivera is going to have some kind of say in that in terms of who gets, and that could be contractual,
right,
who has final say over the 53, who has final say over the 46 on game day, who has final say over the 90-man roster through the offseason, draft picks, all that kind of stuff. And then the question becomes, as the week goes, do they make any kind of official formal announcements? Do they bring in someone from the outside? There's some names that I've heard floating around that aren't even in the news yet, so I think they could do some interviews. But that stuff also might wait till after the draft, where they let Kyle and the scouts run this draft with Eric overseeing it, Rivera obviously heavily involved, and then there's kind of a second Black Monday that doesn't get talked about as much in the NFL, which is the Monday after the NFL draft, and you could see some changes and a new executive vice president or a new team president brought in then.
Right, got you.